Hello, everyone. Tonight I'm going to make a few comments about what I have read tonight for you. There are two pieces, two very small pieces that I'm going to explain, and I'm going to say my words about them. The first one is fantasies of statelessness, and the second one is getting to Denmark. The first point and that the author mentions is democratization as a crucial process toward a stable state. So democracy is primary concept is a primary concept according to the author. And of course, a state that wants to be stable should be democratic. But there is something there's something hidden here, and of course makes the author a little bit concerned and makes and worries the author. And he explains why. So I'm going to say you what makes the author worried about, because everything was going right, was going very well, and we had the triumph of democracy after you know democracy and capitalism became champion in the world. They beat communism and socialism, and the Soviet Union collapsed, and everything was going very well. But in fact, there is something hidden here. I mean, in this big success, in this big triumph, there was something that was going wrong, and the author will tell us what is it. And this wrong thing, and this little bit hidden thing, is you know uh, what will happen next. So what is going to happen next? That makes the author more worried. What will happen next with the states that embrace democracy? We have so many states, not only in Europe, but in other continents also. We have states that became independent, and after becoming independent, they got democracy. They became democratic. And of course, the author analyzes, of course, the process of democratization, how it happened, and when it started. So, we had that the first decade of the new century was a decade of democracy flourishing. So we have many states embracing democracy, but this is not what the author is going to explain to in this piece, in this part. What the author is going to explain for us is, look, we have democracies. A lot of states are democratic, but there is something going wrong with the concept of democracy. So not the execution, not the exercise of democracy, but the mistake here is the concept. For example, many states, and the author says also, many states that became democratic, they started to make steps back. So they made, instead of making progress, they made regress, regression. And because of many reasons, there are some reasons why some states from being democratic started to become authoritarian, and they don't respect democratic principles, democratic values. But of course, everyone is hiding behind democracy. So when I'm saying everyone is behind democracy, is trying to hide themselves behind democracy as a concept. They say, "Oh yeah, we are democratic." So every country in the world nowadays, they say we are democratic. Just China, Cuba, North Korea, and Turkmenistan, and some other countries that are not, I mean, like dictatorships. But 90% of the countries in the world, they say that we are democratic. We are like, we have elections, we have this, and we have institutions, we have this. But in fact, the author, this is what makes the author worried. What makes the author worried is that not understanding exactly what is democracy. What is democracy as a definition? How the democracy as a definition was distorted, and you know, a lot of political leaders and a lot of states, they just got as a label they got the label democracy, but in fact they were not playing. They were not playing with the card democracy. They were just playing with the card democracy, but they were not functioning as a democratic states. They were not applying democratic values and democratic principles. Of course, so when you have, we know very well that in the last century, after in Eastern Europe, many people go many people go and protest against the state. And of course there is a social civil societies, and there is a social mobilization that opposes the regime, and they want the liberties, they want freedom, they want like more freedom. And of course this movement sometimes is not uncontrolled, and this movement replaced traditional political parties. But today in our world, in our beautiful world, we have some governments that in fact only, we call them authoritarian. We call them authoritarian, but in fact, they are not authoritarian at all. But we have to call them authoritarian because, and we cannot call them dictatorships. We cannot call them dictatorships. We cannot name the dictatorships because when we say, we qualify every country, I mean, majority of countries, we qualify them as democratic. So there is a kind of a very long list of democratic states, and a very few states, I mean, very, very few states that are undemocratic and dictatorships. But when in this long list, we have democracies that are hybrid democracies, weak democracies, and ineffective, and we have ineffective democracies, and of course we have kind of a mix of democracy and authoritarian regimes. And of course the author's fear is this one. The author is saying, hey, look, we have got democracy here, but when you get the democracy, you are just not understanding what is democracy. You are not following the rules, the principles that democracy has. You just use it as a propaganda, as something like as a label, but in fact you're not a democratic state. And of course there are some few other factors, other reasons. For example, you have people, sometimes they have personal interests, and sometimes they just don't care if the country is democratic, or is like uh, respecting democratic values so much, and following democratic rules. But what the people want is simple. It's simple. They want uh, 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 they want the they want services. They want public services. So when you go to the government, to the municipality, they want just to get the service. They don't care about the principles, the ideology. Sometimes like kind of this, like this, but you know, just what they want is like a effectivity. So they want a democracy, a state that is effective. But this is wrong, about according to the author. This is wrong because this makes the state this can slip a state from being a democratic state into an authoritarian state, or even worse, into a communist state, a dictatorship. This is the first part. Of course, we can talk a lot about this point here, but I want to just to briefly to say something, for the listener, for my listeners. The second point is getting to Denmark, not to go to Denmark physically, but to go to Denmark mentality, to follow, to use Denmark model, and why we get Denmark as a model. In fact, of course, we know that Nordic states, Nordic countries, they have a very developed welfare system. They are high quality democracies. They have the respect massively human rights, and they have the highest score of democracy in the world. So this is the reason why they get. I mean, Denmark is like a measure. Is like a measure. So they are going to measure the countries according to Denmark. So they want. So if we want the world to function well and the democracy to function well, of course we have an example. We have a perfect example. So that example, and we know now how perfect democracy functions, how a perfect democracy works. So that's Denmark democracy. But of course, even Danes to get to that system, even Danes to get to that system. Of course, it wasn't easy. It was very hard for them, and it needed a long time, and of course, many obstacles to go to that state, to go to the state. Or uh, but of course, this is the best example that the states can follow. But the problem here is that, well, you cannot apply all of the rules, all of the principles, all of the methodology, all of the methodology that is in Denmark as an example, and you get these methodology, these principles, and these values and these norms, and just apply them immediately in a state like Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, or Chad, or Sudan. I don't know. So you just get this package of democratic values, democratic norms, democratic this and that, and then you just try to implement these norms, these laws, these principles to a country that is like, hmm, that has zero experience with democracy. Of course, they have a different culture, a different geography, a different mindset, a different religion, and different perspective, different mindset. So it will not be easy. Of course, when you have an example to follow, but it's different. Because you are under different conditions. You are not in the same conditions. So we when we compare two states, of course, we have to know the differences that exist between states, geography, history, their past, uh, culture, tradition, education, mindset. So these things, these factors are important, and of course, the model itself is a perfect one. But this model cannot be applied everywhere because it's difficult. And of course, even if it needs time, it needs just sometimes maybe just to make it more convenient for that people, to make uh, to make that model more comfortable, more acceptable for the people in one place. Not exactly the same model as it is 100%, to apply that model, I mean the Denmark model, to in Iraq, for example. You cannot do that. It's like difficult. It's difficult, very difficult. But of course, every state has a different trace to democracy, has a different path. And some states, of course, they, for example, in Eastern Europe or in Southeastern Europe, I mean, even nowadays, Albania or Bosnia or Kosovo, we have a long transition. So, what does mean long transition? It's very difficult. Okay, we get we just collapsed. I mean, we just collapsed communism. So communism fall down. We embraced democracy in 1990s, but until today, we have great problems. Uh, um, we have a very big problems like with corruption. We have a corrupted political elite. We have, of course, human rights that are curbed and contained. So the so this is the real problem that the author tries to stress out, tries to explain to us. This is this is what makes a state not stable. So when you have a democracy that is not applied as it should be, that is not understood as it is, just it is like with a name. You get the name of democracy and just to put the name of democracy in your state. Even China, it is like Democratic Republic of China, or sorry, North Korea, Democratic Republic of North Korea. Imagine, but North Korea is a communist country, but in their state name is labeled as democratic. Even Congo. so so today is like a trendy. It's in a trend to get that as a name, but in fact you don't know what is it. So you cannot you don't apply the rules, the norms, the principles that comes with a as a package as a package in democracy. You don't do it. Oh, that's all for tonight, and we will see on the next video. I hope you enjoy two videos that I've done tonight. The first one with the reading, and the second one with my comment. Thank you. See you. I hope you are well. Stay safe and be careful. Subscribe. Don't forget. Like, share. See you.